my name is Donna Kebra, and I came here to talk about Black sex workers in pop culture. I have realized that there has been an uptick of visibility of sex workers in popular culture and actual sex workers, not those cosplaying sex workers or someone taking on the aesthetic of sex workers. Hi, welcome and or welcome back to my channel. My name is Donna Kebra, and I create space for radical bad bitch shit. Please look around and make yourself comfortable as I carve out a space in this planet of YouTube where, we just get down and get with it. Okay, we radical over here, we black over here. And we're girls. Okay, we're girls. We have shows that center black sex workers, black women and men gaining visibility from their sex work, like Jimmy Sachs and Sukiyana, and a lot of celebrities now that have a proud past of sex work. To name a few, we have people like Cardi B, Jocelyn Hernandez, and Summer Walker, who stripped, Jimmy Stacks and Sukiyana, who engage in OnlyFans, and Suki talks about doing sexual favors in the past to get her rent paid. Also like to mention Bolo, who has been an adult entertainer through dance and now has a lucrative career in acting. I'm sure there are other current pop culture celebs that have a past in sex work, but I just wanted to name a few that immediately came to my mind. These people are dynamic, multidimensional, and have complicated politics and pasts. They are also proud, determined, and creative. But how did they get here? For them to have success in the industry is only possible because of the way that was paid for them by Black sex workers from our past. Black women that engaged in sex work and gained popularity as well. Here, we will dive into historical Black sex workers in pop culture. First, let's dive into Nina Simone. Nina Simone was a cabaret pianist, born Eunice Kathleen Wayman on February 22nd, 1933 in Tyrone, North Carolina. She's known for being an extremely talented artist. Some will say she blessed the world with singing, playing piano, dancing, songwriting, etc. She was very vocal about Black freedom and upliftment of Blackness.
Why am I so insistent upon giving out to them that blackness, that black power, that black pushing them to identify with black culture? I think that's what you're asking. I have no choice over it. In the first place, to me, we are the most beautiful creatures in the whole world, black people. I mean that in every sense, outside and inside. And to me, we have a culture that is surpassed by no other civilization, but we don't know anything about it. So again, I think I've said this before in this same interview, I think at some time before, my job is to somehow make them curious enough or persuade them by hook or crook to get more aware of themselves and where they came from and what they are into and what is already there, and just to bring it out. This is what compels me to compel them, and I will do it by whatever means necessary.
Nina Simone chose to be political in her interviews as well as her music. Nina Simone inspired a generation to be young, gifted, and Black, pun intended, during a time where being called Black was deemed offensive. Ms. Mamas chose to be radical and honest, deciding that she would create her freedom in a world that perpetuated bondage. Nina Simone was a classically trained pianist that trained at Juilliard School of Arts. This is a huge deal even for today, so this magnifies her talents for a young Black girl from the South. Determined to be a world-renowned artist, she knew that she had to work and save up money so that she could take time to focus solely on music and the arts. So, Nina Simone would offer piano lessons to college students in order to have income and save enough money so that she can focus on music. One of her students let her know that there are bars and clubs in Atlantic City, which is in New York, or is that New Jersey? Anyways, in Atlantic City, Nina Simone was told that she could make $90 a day. So she decided that she wanted to work there, and she hit up her agent and let him know that she gave him the green light to find her work there. And I just want to say $90 an hour in those times, about like 50, 60 years ago, was a lot, because $90 a day is like what we're getting paid right now. Nina might not have been exclusively sexual or considered a sex worker since she did not engage in sexual acts in exchange for money. However, to be a live performer in a nightclub and her shift was from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. was pretty risque and frowned upon by those that engaged in respectability politics. She changed her name from Eunice to Nina Simone so her mom wouldn't find out. In a memoir, she stated that to her mom, that would be equivalent to her working in the fires of hell. Nina would collect tips on top of her $90 a day pay 3 years before getting a record deal, allowing her to save money as well as putting herself out there as a performing artist. Okay, now personally, I have heard others say that Nina Simone did some burlesque dancing during this time, but I haven't been able to find anything that points to that as being true, and I have been looking at several different sources. I personally do not believe that Nina Simone was a burlesque dancer. She was known to wear long ball gowns and play music that was like hours long. Like she would play music hours at a time. However, she did create music that would have been appropriate to dance in a burlesque style while she would jam out in the bars and play piano at. I thought she probably would like play music and maybe like get down and engage the audience, but I wouldn't consider that like making her a burlesque dancer. All in all, Nina Simone was bad to the bone and allowed herself to be honest about what she felt and knew she deserved.
Before I let you go, one question. There is a report that at a business meeting once you pulled out a knife.
I sure damn did.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
Why?
Because, oh dear. Because there was a record company.
You were about to say something you
I
shouldn't.
can't say. I was a record company that stole my albums and didn't pay me, and they came to Switzerland, and I said, "Where's my money?" And they said, "We're not going to give you any money." I said, "Oh, yes, you are." And I got a gun. It was a gun. It wasn't a knife. And I followed him to a restaurant, and I tried to kill him. I missed him, and I went back to America.
You actually pulled the trigger?
Oh, excuse me. Yes, I did.
and felt better for it.
Oh, yes. Sorry I didn't get him.
So now we've advertised that side of your life, and you say that you're still looking for a lover. Men are going to be a bit nervous of you, aren't they?
They are very.
Do you manage to put them at ease?
No.
And you don't try too hard?
No, I don't try. Yes, I try hard, but I refuse to cook or to clean.
So they've got to take you as you are.
They've got to take me as I am and recognize that I'm a star as well as a woman, and they have to deal with the two.
She lives in my heart, and her music and voice can make me cry at the drop of a hat, honestly. I began with her because she was not necessarily in sex work per se. However, the work she did to save up money for herself was in a taboo, fast money industry that is adjacent to sex work. Okay, the next famous sex worker that I want to talk about is Maya Angelou. Born Margaret Annie Johnson on April 4th, 1928 in St. Louis, Missouri, Maya Angelou was known for being a poet, a writer, actress, public speaker, live performer, political activist, and spiritual enthusiast. Come on, Maya. Yeah, so Maya Angelou was known for exotic dancing, prostitution, and being a madam. Maya Angelou published 36 books and expressed in a few of those publications and in different public talks about the sexual violence she experienced as a young child. Her mother's boyfriend, Ape, raped her. She arrested her mother, which led to his arrest and then his murder. Yes, we love when justice is street justice. Because Maya assumed the murder was because of her confession, she became mute for 6 years. Miss Angelou stayed with her maternal grandmother during the majority of her childhood and moved to San Francisco with her mother around the age of teenager. It was actually difficult. It was a little difficult for me to find outfacing details that clearly stated the ways Maya Angelou engaged in sex work. I always knew that she engaged in sex work, and I knew that she like danced briefly, but I knew that there were other levels in the way that she engaged in sex work. There were brief details about her experiences with being a madam and also her engaging in prostitution. Some articles I read mentioned her detailing life as a sex worker in her second autobiography, Gathered Together in My Name. I am going to read that book in the near future, but for now I needed answers. So I continued to look through scholarly journals and articles, and then I realized that Maya Angelou was never ashamed of discussing her time as someone that engaged in sex work. There was no shame surrounding it for her.
And started to sing for a living. I had a job once as a shake dancer, which
What's
was
that?
really.
What's that?
The shake dancer was the.
Is that the go-go dancer?
Oh yes, but long before, and I worked in a strip joint. There were 4 of us, 3 strippers and me, and the strippers were white. And I didn't strip. I was too nice to strip. I wore a costume that if you balled it up, you could put it in a penny matchbox, that 2 spangles and a twirl or something like that.
But you didn't strip all of it.
But I. And the 4 of us danced from 8 until 2 every hour, 15 minutes an hour. So the other ladies would go out and they go, tee, 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 tee. But I would hit it. I would go out and dance. And the band was black. All the musicians were black. And they'd been used to kung, kung, ka-tung, 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 kung, ka-tung, ka-tung. So I came in and asked for Caravan and all sorts of exotic songs, which meant that they had to work. So it was a while before they really liked me. But after a while, I would try to cut them. That is, I would try to do, some double rhythms, and which would make them have to, try to cut me. And they'd double up and triple up and play 5/4s and things like that. And so we began to enjoy it. I really liked it.
She wrote about it and talked about it in interviews. So I was trying to figure out, why was it so hard for me to find plain, clear information on it today? And that is because Maya Angelou is successful. It is because she has proven to be smart. It is because she has gained respect of a large population. And those things don't go well with the narrative of sex workers. Ooh, tea, clock it. Sex workers are supposed to be the scum of the earth that don't have self-respect. People that are desperate and addicted to something. Completely flawed human beings that should wear lifelong scarlet letters, or people that do sex work are only doing it until they find something legitimate. That's fucked up. Like, it's really hard for people to think that sex workers can be successful and be like dynamic and more than just like that. While Angelou did not have this attitude personally, it is almost as if society created their own unnecessary layer of protection over the old, wise woman that is assumed to not have any relationship to sex work or sex in general. Once women become a certain age, we just pretend that sex is not even an option for them. Even when I did come across the articles or podcasts that discussed Maya Angelou's experience in sex work, it's vague and it still pushes a narrative similar to, even though she did this, she still accomplished these things. When in all actuality, because she engaged in sex work, she is magnificent, Maya Angelou, a phenomenal woman, period. Well-rounded. Because she engaged in sex work, she was able to engage in other things. Because she had these experiences in sex work, she was able to relate and really draw in an audience. Angelou stated in an interview that I wrote about my experiences because I thought too many people tell young folks I never did anything wrong. Who? Moi? Never I. I have no skeletons in my closet. In fact, I have no closet. They lie like that, and then young people find themselves in situations and they think, damn, I must be a pretty bad guy. My mom or dad never did anything wrong. They can't forgive themselves and go on with their lives. And then she wrote the book, I Gathered Together in My Name, about her past as a sex worker. So just to give a little bit of background of Maya Angelou and how she found herself in sex work and just a little bit of her young adult life. She was a performing arts dancer in California, and she was looking to make ends meet for her and her son. So she met this guy named LD who was a gambler, and he lured her in prostitution by saying he needed help recovering money that he lost. So it was giving pimp for the most part, and they were doing that for about 2 years. Angela also danced in a nightclub and served as a madam in a brothel. Sometimes she engaged in sex work in this brothel as well. During her time engaging in sex work, she also had other random jobs like working at an auto shop and as a cook. Angelou engaged in sex work several times, and these range in description. Maya Angelou applied to the army and was accepted, but before being able to actually join, they denied her access because of her relation to labor justice and the Communist Party. Come on, bad bitch. Come on, revolutionary. Yes. Come on. Come on, Communist Party. Afterwards, she was an exotic dancer in a club that included her being a part of a duo called Pool and Rita. There are more details surrounding Maya Angelou's relationship with sex work that I'm sure are noteworthy. I will be doing continuous research for personal knowledge and a possible update to this video. I will also be reading Gathered Together in My Name, and I encourage you to do the same. Come on, read. It's probably at your local library. I checked on the library app that I have, and it is there, the digital version, and I'm sure the physical version is in there. Anywho, love and light to Miss Angelou. Shout out to her. The next famous historical sex worker that I want to talk about is Josephine Baker. Yes, who's in Burlesque. Josephine Baker is my birthday twin. Shout out to Josephine Baker, who was born Frida Josephine McDonald on June 3rd, 1906 in St. Louis, Missouri. Both of her parents were artists, as her mother wanted to be a music hall dancer and her father was a vaudeville drummer. Her mother had to let go of her dreams of being a dancer in order to become a washerwoman and support her and her child. However, the father decided to abandon his family shortly after the birth of Josephine, leaving them financially unstable, which is super unfair and super selfish. Yeah, so unfortunate. At the age of 8, Josephine started babysitting and cleaning the house of wealthy whites. Let me repeat that. Josephine Baker dropped out of school at the age of 8 and got a job. She was babysitting and working in the house of wealthy white people. At the age of 13, she worked at the club where she met a man named Willie Wells, who was probably a grown-ass man, because I looked up, down, and around to find his age and could not find anything surrounding that. The two divorced a few weeks after marriage, records being that the relationship was really unhappy, she was 13 years old. After this, she was strengthening her skill of dancing while both as a dancer in a club and as a street performer. In 1919, she was touring the U.S. with the Jones Family Band and the Dixie Steppers. Let's remember, she was a young teenager while this was happening, like 14 the most. At the age of 15, Josephine married again to another Willie, LOL, but his last name was Baker, hence turning Josephine McDonald into Josephine Baker. Period. She ended up keeping the last name for the rest of her life, despite them divorcing a few years later. Which reminds me of Tina Turner keeping the Turner name. Period. As a natural-born star, Josephine Baker moved to New York around the age of 17 and soon started performing with the Chocolate Dandies, which was a group of Black performers, including Ethel Waters, who is another monumental Black woman performer. Look her up. In 1925, Josephine performed in Paris, where she left a huge impression by performing in a feather skirt only. Because I believe she was topless in this, but I could be wrong. And if she wasn't completely topless, it was like damn near. Another performance that stamped her mainstream success was that in her infamous banana skirt. Baker danced a performance called La Folie du Jour, where she wore a skirt made of 16 bananas, literally. The show was extremely popular in Paris, with her overdramatic facial expressions and added touch of humor. She was one of the highest paid performers in Europe, which is really cool. While it is fun to think of the glamour that came with Paris and how cool it was for Miss Baker to gain extreme notoriety while she was living, Miss Mamas put her body on the line to gain such success. The work that Josephine Baker engaged in is technically sex work. To dance in front of an audience in an almost nude state is something that can only come with an aroma of sexiness in the air. Getting on stage and releasing your inhibitions takes courage, especially when the audience is largely white. and they're golfing at you and absorbing your art.
Dis donc, c'est bien comme effet. Et alors? Dis donc, non. Six? Oh, Quelle femme?
This was especially pointed because of Baker being a Black woman from the American South with a passion for racial justice and human equality. There's an inherent sexualization of Black bodies that happens when fully clothed and poised is holy. So to be outwardly nude-ish and to be dancing in a way that is associated with Blackness, Josephine Baker was a trailblazer, especially since this is when video recordings were first introduced and allowed images to move globally faster than before in the past. Luckily, Black people were received much better in France than in comparison to the United States, where Josephine Baker was from. Josephine was able to be hailed as a treasured performer in Europe, and specifically in France.
Bonsoir, bonsoir, bonsoir. Comment ça va? Ça va bien ou ça va comme ci, comme ça? Très bien. Il est inutile de vous dire ma joie, bien entendu. Simplement, avec votre permission, je voudrais vous raconter une toute petite histoire. Comme ceci. C'est autour d'un lointain voyage, me trouvant à l'étranger. Quand monsieur en son langage, gentiment un jour m'a demandé, allez-moi donc la ville lumière, Paris est vraiment si joli, on le dit unique sur la terre.
So when Josephine Baker returned back to the United States, she received extremely hurtful discrimination in 1936. The New York Times, the magazine and paper that we still read today, called her a Negro wench. She returned to France and became a citizen immediately after. I know that's right. Cause who? Who a wench? Your mama a wench? Josephine Baker has a long resume of social justice actions that she is also known for, in addition to being an impressive performer. She was a spy during World War II by smuggling messages in her sheet music and undergarments. And at the end of the war, Baker was awarded 2 of France's highest military awards. Josephine Baker also made sure to put in her performance contracts that she will only perform in front of a crowd that had integration as an option. Come on, activists. I love it. These black women sex workers, be activists. Period. There are a gazillion things I could list off about Miss Baker that proves of how fantastic and regal of an impression she left on the world. But I must stay focused on the task at hand. So I will close this section by encouraging viewers to look up the life of Josephine Baker. She had a career spanning over 50 years, which included performing, acting in movies, speaking up for civil rights, and being a humanitarian. And philanthropists, we go up for Mama Josephine. The next famous sex worker that I want to talk about is Pam Grier. Yes, come on, Pam Grier. I love me some Pam Grier. Pam Grier was known as being an actress. Born Pamela Suzette Grier on May 26, 1949. Come on, Gemini Queen. In Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Come on, North Carolina. Pam Grier traveled a lot in her early childhood due to her father being a mechanic for the US Air Force. So she was all over Europe. But she ended up finishing high school in Denver, Colorado, where she described being bullied verbally and physically by older students. As a young woman, she aspired to be a doctor and enrolled in college with that goal in mind. However, in 1967, she won the Miss Universe beauty pageant and was discovered by an agent, which is a huge deal. Pam decided to take on an acting career with her mother's encouragement and moved to Los Angeles, California to pursue a career in acting. Pam Grier was 22 years old when her debut film titled Big Doll House premiered in 1971. In this role, she played a prison inmate with other women that were locked up and oozing of sexiness. Pam Grier went on to star in several movies like Hitman, Black Mama, White Mama. Her most famous films were Coffee in 1974 and Foxy Brown in 1975, where she played a spy that went undercover as a prostitute to get revenge. The politics that surrounded the last two films mentioned spoke to the current state of Black Americans in the 70s. Coined as Blaxploitation, the roles that Pam Grier acted represented the environment Black people exist in. Pam Grier's characters were beautiful and courageous women that had no fear of white people and had a show enough attitude of getting a job done. Show enough. Rooted in Black power, Pam Grier's characters called white people's honky or cracker, shot at police, and killed men that committed sexual assault. With heroin and cocaine being cash cows of the time, there were critiques throughout her popular films that offered the examples of how the ghetto was a place for experimentation for the police, pimps, and pushers. Yes, alliterations. During these films, Pam Grier would sometimes have topless scenes and other boudoir moments where sex was centered. In 1975, she stamped herself as the Blaxploitation Queen with the movie Sheba Baby. It is great to note that she was the first African American woman to be the lead in an action movie. Pam Grier is an action movie star. Actually, she was the first woman that was a lead in an action movie. Come on now. Get into it. Get into it, yeah. Pam Grier was one of the first women on film to express the dynamics of Black life as a woman. She was sexy, funny, smart, witty, rude, ferocious, confident, and a killer. All while pushing revolutionary rhetoric and having her boobs out. Grier starred in an array of films and TV shows starting from 1969 all the way until present day today. In 1997, she was in the lead role of the movie Jackie Brown, which gave her a Golden Globe nomination and an NAACP Image Award. Grier continues to act and speaks publicly about her experience of sexual violence as a young child and teenager. The ways she relates to indigenous spirituality because of her heritage. And she is the original cool rich auntie. I love that.
But let me tell you, when they found out that I played such a natural human being in a setting, I started getting offers from all over the world and filmmakers, because that moment was such depth in my work, and that so many women in society had made them cover up, and the actresses were turning away from camera. And I'm saying, why are they turning away from camera? There's no cameras there.
Right.
What's making them turn away from the optic that's portraying all these women bathing naturally, which was beautiful to me.
Yes.
If you've been to other countries, the indigenous people, when they bathe, the women they're not covered up, they're topless, they have cloths on, the men are
much more
nude.
comfortable with nudity than in...
But it's accepted, and it's natural, and it's beautiful, and mentally healthy.
Yes.
And so I said, I want to be able to be that picture in National Geographic. So that was that's what I want to do. And I did it, and everyone were stunned by it at first, and then they relaxed into it and said, but of course, why not? And so I was rewarded for going to that depth.
Miss Mamas has dated celebrity men in the past. Go do your research. I'm not going to talk about them because, the people that she dated, I'm just like, him. But she does not attach herself to any men and does not have any children. Whether this is by choice or not, she speaks from a place of confidence and self-worth. Pam Grier put her body on display to convey a message of Black women, power, and agency in sex work. Period. Most of the women discussed in this video have upbringings rooted in a need for financial stability, which is why it is usually assumed that engagement of sex work is done from a place of desperate circumstances. While desperation is something that creeps up often throughout the stenches of poverty, there are several avenues that could have been taken. Like the video if you haven't already. Thank you, I appreciate it. Choosing to use what you have in front of you or the literal physical you to change a material circumstance is something that takes bravery and tactical skill, especially in regards to agency and negotiations, which is exactly what sex work is. There are risks that come with the avenue of work that is sex work. In the same way people's bodies are put on the line in the military or child factory laborers and so on. To take on a job that relies on the physical body is a risky one. Some of those jobs have high payouts, like working as a football player in the NFL or being a top paid stripper in G5. Both of these jobs are extremely physically demanding and come with tragic risks if accidents happen, or even worse, when the subsystems of exploitation in these industries rear their ugly heads. These women flew so we could soar. All of them represent radicalism in the best ways. These women are the blueprint and inspiration for the bad bitches that we know and see today in films, music videos, award shows, and social media. Working in the sex industry is definitely not a stamp that requires a triumphant career change in order to be valid. Sex work is work on all levels, period. Thank a sex worker today. Thank you so much for watching this video. It was so much fun writing it and doing the research for it. I really hope that you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed creating it. Please like the video. It honestly makes a difference. Share it. Watch it more than one time. Comment on it. I feel like I'm always begging and pleading for people to engage in my videos. I know they're quality. I know that they are worthy of engagement. I know that they are worthy of being monetized. And since I'm not monetized yet, I have to put in extra work to make sure that people are seeing what it is that I have to say and that my videos do well. So I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for a physical favor. I am asking for you to like the video. If you can, share with someone. If you can, comment on it. Yes, we are normalizing sex work and y'all, because all the girls be out here cosplaying sex workers, but they out here getting tried and losing money. Okay, can't be having that. So, yeah, if we normalize sex work, it's just a win-win. It's just a win-win.
To be young, gifted and black, oh what a lovely precious dream. Be young, gifted and black, open your heart to what I mean. In the whole world you know, there's a million boys and girls who are young, gifted and black, and that's a fact. We are young, gifted and black. We must begin to tell our young there's a world waiting for you. Yours is the quest that's just begun. So when you're feeling real low, there's a great truth that you should know. When you're young, gifted and black, your soul's intact. I said your soul's intact. And remember it, remember it, remember it, remember it. To be young, gifted and
every time.